This is what I wish more product leaders knew before they tried to scale without direction. At tech companies, it's a pretty standard practice to have a North Star. However, as I've dived into advising and training other product designers, I see countless teams struggle with alignment. The diagnosis is no North Star metric guiding their efforts. So, what is a North Star? A North Star is more than just another KPI or key performance indicator. It's the singular metric that 1, captures your customer's success moment, 2, shows measurable progress, so in some sort of time capacity, and 3, creates a clear path to revenue. Obviously, this isn't the case for everyone, but the good news is for these people in my growth design training, it kicks off a conversation at the organization about what the North Star metric could be. Let's take a look at some examples of North Stars from tech giants. Okay, so we have Uber, which is rides per week. Slack is daily active users. Amazon is number of purchases per month. Zoom is daily meeting participants. Netflix is streaming hours per user. Airbnb is number of nights booked. Spotify is time spent listening. And LinkedIn is daily active users. Do you notice a pattern here? Each metric connects customer success with business growth. It signals a healthy business with a clear mission. And if you've watched any of my lectures, then you'll probably hear me say, if a business only exists to create a profit, then it should not exist. So here are the 3 elements or 3 components that you need for your North Star. Firstly, we spoke about customer success moments. How do your customers experience value? This isn't about you, it's about them. And that's a common mistake that I see founders make. Often they're focused on what they want and features they want instead of doing deep research to understand their customers. 2 is measurable progress. Your metric needs some sort of time element that shows growth, whether that's monthly, daily, weekly, whatever makes sense for your product. And the third thing is that path to revenue. It must connect to how your company becomes profitable. For example, if we think about Uber, the amount of rides per week directly impacts their bottom line. So here's my recommendation for identifying your North Star. Start by doing your research and asking questions. If you come up empty-handed, I'd recommend gathering key stakeholders for a meeting, maybe even an ideation session if that makes sense. And again, don't just talk to people on your own team. You want to really gather people across departments because the North Star affects the entire organization, whether that is product or sales. The goal is to get everyone aligned on what success looks like. You can ask these 3 questions in your ideation session. When does the customer experience the core value of the product? How frequently should they be experiencing this value? LinkedIn used to be something like, monthly active users, but obviously they've evolved a lot into more of a social media platform. And so now daily active users is going to make a lot more sense. Also ask, how does this value moment translate to revenue? Now I want to share a case study from my growth design cohort and talk about how silos can be the death of you. In a recent product strategy workshop that I facilitated, a UX leader from a bank shared that they were struggling with silos. They don't have a clear internal North Star, and I'll just read you what he said. Our initial North Star was simply upholding compliance, GDPR standards, and ISO. But as our UX team grew from around 20 to hundreds of professionals, we realized the bigger opportunity was unifying our siloed product solutions. Does this sound familiar? This is what happens to organizations as they grow. Different teams build different solutions, and if you don't have strong leadership and strong cascading and organization, different teams build different solutions that should work together, but they don't. So how can you merge silos to build momentum for your customer? Here is my recommendation for merging silos. The approach I've seen work the best is to map the customer's user journey across all points of the product. Then identify where the handoff occurs. These handoff points often reveal the disconnect that frustrates customers. For example, when you call into customer support and you give them all this information and then they transfer you to someone else where you need to repeat everything all over again. What is happening there? So the goal is to understand the handoff points and increase communication and planning around these. Airbnb is a company that has an interesting approach. Clearly, they've been trying to tackle this, actively working to collapse that bureaucracy that comes with scaling. Their North Star of nights booked unifies everything from customer acquisition to host retention because it forces every team to ask, how do we contribute to the number of nights booked on Airbnb? So again, though it's a marketplace and it has hosts and guests, this is a North Star that works to capture all of the value. Now, this is a question I got actually in the current cohort that I'm doing right now, and that is, can companies have multiple North Stars? So I have not actually seen this with my own clients or companies that I've worked for. However, the answer is yes, with caution. If we look at a company like Google, which has many products that are not necessarily related, that's a use case where it makes sense to have multiple North Stars. For example, for Google search, it could be something like queries per user. For YouTube, it could be something like watch time, and that was an entirely different company that they acquired. And then for Google Cloud, it could be something like customer workloads. Amazon is another similar type profile that we can look at, where you have Amazon, the marketplace, and they are looking at purchases per month. However, you also have AWS, which is a massive revenue generator for the company, and there, of course, that no longer makes sense. So for AWS, they might be looking at something more like compute hours. What makes this work, the multiple North Stars at really big organizations that have different products, is the clear distinction. They have a clear separation with organized leadership for each of these units, unlike Airbnb, where something like nights booked impacts both sides of the marketplace. My recommendation for multiple North Stars is if you're running distinct business units with different customer bases or business models, separate North Stars make sense. But within a single product or a closely aligned product, I would avoid it. For example, the banking example that I used earlier, having multiple North Stars creates that exact problem that you're trying to solve. So again, the goal is alignment here with one North Star. Let's talk about the 3 levels of North Star maturity. And this is where it comes into play in how you actually practice having a North Star in your organization. So the first thing is going to be your basic North Star. You have a metric, but departments don't align around it. For example, we track monthly active users, but engineering is focused on features, not usage. 2, you have an aligned North Star. Everyone understands how their work impacts this metric. For example, everyone at Airbnb knows that they're focusing on the number of nights booked and how they impact that. And 3, really the goal here is the evolving North Star. Your metric adapts as your product and market mature. For example, if we think about a really large public company like Netflix, they evolved over time from subscriber growth to streaming hours. So my essential summary here, remember that finding your North Star isn't about finding the perfect metric. It's about aligning your entire organization towards customer value delivery. Customer value delivery. Okay, great. I'm just making sure that you heard me. The best North Stars I've seen come from leaders that understand both the customer journey and their business models. And that is symbiosis. A successful North Star has statistical significance and is not driven by executive opinions. It answers, how do we deliver value to customers in a way that grows the business? I'd love to hear where you are in your journey. Comment and let me know, do you have a North Star at your organization? Do you need help figuring out what it is? Or are you even struggling, like the guy in my growth course, with siloed products and siloed communication? If you enjoyed this, then I think you'd also enjoy my newsletter, Conscious Tech, where this is a direct excerpt from the newsletter that I write every Wednesday, which you can get for free. See you in the next video.